Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and highlight an organization called the Inner City Muslim Action Network. And I think we have a few people from that organization here in the audience. So one thing that was missing, it may not have been missing, but I didn't see it up on the maps that Dorian pulled up when we had fast foods and grocery stores, was something that we all see in our neighborhoods all day long, every day, the corner store and the liquor store, right? So I just wanted to highlight, as we also all know, in many of these instances in communities, many of those stores are owned and operated by immigrant Muslims. So the Inner City Muslim Action Network, Iman, we feel like we're uniquely positioned to agitate and challenge those store owners to start providing healthier fruits and vegetables, stop selling the paraphernalia and the alcohol, and really challenge them to be more responsible to their belief system. And you're welcome. So I wanted, the website is imancentral.org, and we're looking for people we're starting in East Inglewood. The organization is located in Chicagoland, but we want to go throughout the South and West Side where these issues are happening. So we want foot soldiers to help us come organize and really do some racial healing. There are 4 focal points that we're trying to get across with this. It's called Muslim Run campaign. With this campaign, it's about an alternative business model where you actually have clean, lit, healthy, nice stores that are very welcoming, great customer service, fresh produce, etc. Public policy agenda that we have where we're trying to make sure that food justice is kept at the core, and we really actually make some strides around changing some of the policies, discriminatory practices and policies around food justice. Number 3, an education component. A lot of folks up here talked about education, and for me, it's more about re-educating us about our food and the things that were pointed out in Byron's film about how we used to grow our food and those types of things, getting back to that and really focusing on the youth in particular. And the 4th one is racial healing. There's a lot of tension between these Muslim stores, these immigrants, and the African-American community. So we're really, really working to try to make changes with that. And one just really, really quick plug I have to give for Iman, too, is our Streets Festival, which is a global, fantastic festival that brings together global artists and community activists. It's happening in June 15, 2013. So if you want information about that, Streets 2013 at imancentral.org. I had to give that quick plug. One more quick plug. Dorian mentioned place matters, this concept of place matters. So there is actually a place matters team here in Cook County, and we focus on dismantling structural racism. So we're race explicit. Not race exclusive, but race explicit. And we look at structures to try to create healthier options for people of color in particular. She mentioned where you live determines how you live. Where you live, work, play, eat, sleep, this has a great impact on your health. Your zip code is this greater indicator than your DNA of how you live. And that's an example of all these stores and unhealthy choices in our communities. So we recently came out with a report specifically for Cook County, so the data in here is striking, because it talks about the concentration of residential segregation and poverty and the discriminatory practices that have helped to create these outcomes in our community. So I have a few copies of these, and we're also trying to build a movement. We're getting people and individuals and organizations that are interested in coming together and working collectively to make sure we're affecting social justice and to make sure we're empowering the folks on the grassroots level, the folks in the communities who have to live under these conditions, empowering them to be at the table of these policies. If they're not there, that's why these policies keep failing us. But if people who actually are affected by these policies are at the table, then they can add to what the solutions should look like. So,
all right.
That's great.
There you go.
Okay, so I want to talk just really quickly. I heard a couple of mentions of redlining, and I just want to make sure that people know what that means too. So just really quickly, there was a process by banks before the 70s where they would literally draw red lines. So look at that red, look at this up there on the left side, and literally that's where banks would actively discriminate against. They would say, I am not lending to you, I am not servicing you, and this is specifically based on race, right? So that was called redlining. And so people are, now it's considered illegal based on class. So the Community Reinvestment Act happened, and now that's considered illegal. But there's a direct parallel, what I was just describing with banks, that we see with grocery stores, right? In markets, and that's why a lot of people talk about food redlining. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. In addition to having a larger understanding of what food justice is about and should be about, which is which should be community-driven, right? It should be inclusive. It should challenge power, and it should be much more inclusive and much more substantive and understanding of all of the complex issues involved, including making sure that markets are involved, and then thinking about how Black people have, going back to the structures that was mentioned, how we have historically and continue to be disconnected from land and removed from land, right? And so there's a great film called Banished. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. It's really dope. But it literally traces how we've been disconnected from land. There's a whole Pickford settlement that people need to know about in terms of Black farmers. There was a lawsuit that was enacted against USDA, and Black farmers actually won this settlement. Be they getting their money is another story, but they actually won the settlement, which showed that USDA was actively discriminating against Black farmers, which shows us why we have so few farmers of color. That's one way that institutionally instigated why we have so few farmers of color. Going back to resources and people doing amazing work, I'm surrounded by so many of my amazing mentors who are on this panel, but also right in front here. So I want to give a shout out to Baba Fred and Dr. Jafunza Wright. Everybody knows them. If you don't know them, you need to know them. The reason why are for several reasons. One is they're, please correct me if I'm wrong, because you know how I do sometimes. I make up stuff, but my heart is in the right place. But they just got a grant, USDA, highly competitive, to produce 25 new Black farmers in Chicago. Is that right? And match them with land. So these are people that are saying, you know, so also just a shout out to Dr. DeFunza, because she's a medical doctor, a holistic practitioner. She has her own practice, and she sees directly the correlation between food and what the effects that it has on her patients, right? And so as a result of seeing that, we have what's now known in collective with other people with what we now know as the Healthy Food Hub. How many Healthy Food Hub members are here today? All right, woo, represent y'all. So the Healthy Food Hub is a membership-based organization trying to build a local food economy. So I'm pumping this up because I really want people to walk away. This is why we created this, to walk away saying there's a lot of stuff that I can do in Chicago. There's a lot of work. We just named a whole bunch of different organizations. You can get involved in Growing Power, Growing Food and Justice for Initiative. I mess up stuff. GFJ, say it, help me out.
Growing Food and Justice for All Initiative,
which
is having a racial healing, anti-racism training in December 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay, great.
So, really quick. So I know like the audience wants to get some questions in, so I'm going to just sort of leave you all with this one last question, and it may come from, I think, because there's a lot of young people in the audience as well, right? But how do you all think that sort of your organization sort of play a role in encouraging an intergenerational food revolution, right? Because a lot of what you all have been talking about is sort of like the social, structural, historical issues that we're dealing with, but also on the day-to-day, right, that sort of people have to, like, are eating food with their families, right? Like the beauty of soul food is, right, that it's sort of bringing people together, and we wanted to sort of do it in a healthy way that could sort of bring change in families. So I don't know if, like, quickly, if a couple of you all want to sort of address that, starting with Byron at the end, and then we could open it up to the audience for some questions really quickly.
Real quickly, I can talk about Iman again. One of the major programs and initiatives of Iman is youth leadership and development. So actually Shamar, who stood up, is our youth director. So I don't know all the details behind what we do, but I do know that we do a lot of youth-led organizing and really empowering and educating young folks around how to create healthy lifestyles in our communities. And they're going to the stores with us and agitating and talking to customers and going out to do surveys in the communities to learn about what do we want to see as a community in these stores. So that's something that we really uplift and empower our youth in the community with Iman.
As a healthcare provider, I think that modeling what's important and not just about giving patients medications, but giving them food as a healing prescription is very important. I'm going to call out Chef Sadakia, who's in the audience here. I see him here. Who has been a participant in our Community Grand
Vegan
Round
soul
series,
food.
in which vegan soul food absolutely delicious, but that we've actually done community education events in which we partner with the community to say, what is it that you're interested in, what's important to you, and then we bring in speakers and events that address this. And Chef Sadaki was one of our wonderful speakers about a year and a half ago on this very topic, and it was around diabetes and obesity prevention. And so, again, as a healthcare provider, modeling what I want people to do in order to change their lives, I think, is essential.
We have a youth corps, many of which are here. I think employing kids in urban ag, in food-related businesses, really introducing them to not only a positive manifestation of being able to be farmers, and for them to be able to learn how to cook the food they grow, to learn how to sell it, to really be entrepreneurs, and to see that as a reality, and to have older folks working with them and that they can admire and look up to. I spent yesterday, and some of the girls I think are here, we cooked healthy chicken soup, grass-fed chicken, and they learned how to chop all the vegetables up, and we talked about not using salt and what sodium does to African Americans, and we had an amazing experience. So just having those kinds of really personal interactions to the hard work of farming, and having youth be the transformers within community spaces, to be the ones who are taking a vacant lot that's being used for nefarious activities and transforming that into a vibrant, beautiful space that is an attribute in the community that produces wealth. And I think without us addressing the economics and the disparities around economics for our young people, then we're in trouble. So I just encourage everyone, wherever there's an opportunity to hire a young person, to mentor, and to be able to do that in a holistic way that includes something that they do every day, which is eat. It's a very powerful tool for transformation.
Right.